Alright guys, Manchester United have just beaten Nottingham Forest by 2 goals to 0 to pretty much confirm their place, well, to confirm their place in the League Cup final. I think you'd have to be a pretty crazy person to have put any money on Nottingham Forest getting to the final after the first leg last week, but just to make sure of it, United did win 2-0, getting goals from Anthony Martial and Fred near the end of the game after a few substitutions were made, including Jadon Sancho, who made his return to the Man United squad after, I think, something like 3 months out, which, good to see. Obviously, I'm not a Man United fan, but I am an England fan, and I'm a fan of football, and it's never nice to see a player reportedly go through mental struggles because that's life, isn't it? You got to have you got to sympathise with human beings when they are going through trouble, and he apparently has been. I didn't know about it, to be honest, until I actually read a preview to the game today on BBC. I just assumed that it was injury that was keeping him out, but he made his return, came off the bench, didn't steal the show or anything, but made an impact when he came on. Fair play to him. But this game, United, they dominated for pretty much 90% of the game. That there were only 1 or 2 occasions really where Nottingham Forest managed to break forward and create a couple of chances. In fact, there was probably 1 in each half. The first one in the first half coming after Forest had absorbed a lot of pressure from Man United, and chance broke for Brennan Johnson. And I think to say he should have scored is a little bit harsh. It definitely wasn't an easy chance, because he was being pressurised by, I think it was Lisandro Martinez, and also he had Rafael Varane coming across him, blocking one side of the goal almost. So I think Johnson either had to try and sneak it in the near post at the bottom corner, which was going to be a tricky finish, or he just had to go for power, and he decided to go for power. Tom Heaton managed to stand up to it and save it. So fair play to him, but I don't think you can really point the finger at Brennan Johnson in that situation, because I think he did quite well to engineer the opportunity for himself. So I think the criticism he got at half time was a little bit harsh, to be honest, but I can understand the game plan from Steve Cooper. If that goal had gone in, you'd say that was a brilliant game plan, because United were always going to dominate. If you look at the starting 11 United put out, it wasn't like they rested all their players. From their best starting 11 out of players that are fit, obviously not including Christian Eriksen, who's out for a while now, the only real players I would say who are missing from it are probably David De Gea and Marcus Rashford, because I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka, the form he's been in lately, I think you have to put him on par with Diogo Dalot. I know Dalot, when he's played for Man United this season, has been very good for them. So it's definitely a battle for the starting right back spot, and I think you've got to give a lot of credit to Aaron Wan-Bissaka actually, because a lot of people wrote him off at the start of the season when there was that thing about Ten Hag made it clear to him apparently that he was surplus to requirements almost, and made it very clear that Diogo Dalot would be starting. So fair play to Wan-Bissaka for managing to fight his way back into Erik Ten Hag's plans. I don't know if come the end of the season that Ten Hag will still want him when he's got another transfer window. Ten Hag's only really had the 1 transfer window so far at United, because the January transfer window is not a proper transfer window. The January transfer window is all about, like, if you've got any weaknesses within your squad that desperately need solving for the remainder of the season, sign them. Or if it's imperative that you beat a rival team to a player, then that's what the January transfer window is about. So I think United realised, okay, we need a striker just to see us through to the end of the season. They went and got Weghorst, and then on deadline day, when the news about Christian Eriksen being injured, and given how important Eriksen has been to Man United this season, they obviously went to try and sign Marcel Sabitzer, who was always going to be an attainable player, because he was a very good player at Red Bull Leipzig, but since he's moved to Bayern Munich in the summer, obviously that's a step up in quality. I know they're both teams that are fighting for the Bundesliga right now on similar points, but the quality of player that Bayern Munich possess compared to Leipzig in terms of individual, it's a bit higher. So Sabitzer was always going to struggle a little bit, or maybe take a bit of time to adapt when he joined Bayern Munich, and it doesn't seem as though it's fully worked out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Sabitzer does at United. But enough about the transfer window. Anyway, get back to the game. And United were in control for the majority of this game. Anthony had a really good strike just before half time where he was unlucky not to score. And Anthony's another player who, for me, even though he got off to quite a good start in terms of goals when he joined Man United, I think he scored in each of his first 3 Premier League games, I think I'm right in saying, but I didn't feel as though he was necessarily playing very well. He wasn't getting on the ball enough, I didn't feel, and when he was getting on the ball, I always thought that he was trying to do too much. He was showboating over the top. I know he still does a little bit, but I don't mind a little bit. But when it's every other time you get the ball, it's just too much. But yeah, tonight another good performance from him. But yeah, the game sort of changed a bit when Ten Hag did bring the subs on. I think United just went for it a bit more committed, a little bit more, because Forest, their approach to this game did change after half time. The first half, there was a lot more pressure on the Man United players when Man United had the ball. That they were, almost hunting in packs, if that makes sense. Whereas second half, it just felt like a backs to the wall job. Let's just try and see if we can keep this at 0-0. And they only had one real attack in the second half. That was from the substitute Danilo, who forced a save out of Heaton, and then Sam Surridge. He probably should have scored. He needed to. It was, he had a massive chunk of the goal to aim at. It's not, easy. It's on his, I think he's left foot, so I think it was on his weak foot. It's bouncing, so he should have done maybe a little bit better. Well, he should have scored, really. If we're saying Brennan Johnson should have scored, which I'm not, but others were, I think you have to say that Sam Surridge should have scored that opportunity. But I think United had already got both their goals by then, or at least one of them anyway, from Anthony Martial, who was subbed on. And the move actually it started off with a poor pass from Martial. It was a good run from both players, Martial and Rashford, but it was actually a poor pass from Martial into Rashford, and that nearly gave the opportunity away. But luckily it fell back to Martial, and he managed to finish it off. And the second goal, it is just a piece of class from Bruno Fernandes. He'd done it a couple of times in the game, actually, this outside the foot pass over the top. Rashford doesn't get the cleanest contact on it, actually, but manages to put it back across goal for Fred, who, just sort of bundles it in. It wasn't like a clean finish either, but he was in the right place at the right time. He only had to get any sort of contact on it, and yeah, he'd made it to 2-0. There were a couple of other moments in the game. It wasn't, a thriller, this game. It was never going to be. The tie was effectively over halfway through the leg, if we're being completely honest. There was a bit of, I'm not going to say a fight, but a bit of fisticuffs between Alejandro Garnacho and Brennan Johnson at one point. There were a couple of questionable penalties. I think the one where Weghorst manages to nick the ball away from McKenna, according to the rules, it probably should be a penalty, but I'm not a fan of these ones where a striker nicks the ball off the defender, doesn't have control of the ball, and then the defenders obviously tried to clear the ball, but he hasn't seen the striker. I'm not a fan of them because I just think it's completely playing for the penalty. I think there's arguments for and against it, obviously, but you know, it's just not something I really like, to be honest. But I think according to the rules, that should have been a penalty to Man United. But yeah, my man of the match for this game, I would have to give to Bruno Fernandes. He was quality throughout. The second goal from Fred's goal, he played a huge part in that with a pass over the top. It was executed perfectly. And yeah, he just had a top game. There were a few others who had good games for Man United as well. Anthony, who I've already mentioned, I thought was brilliant. I think Lisandro Martinez at the back, Wan-Bissaka and Shaw too as well. There were some good performances today. But yeah, the main thing is United are through to the final. They're going to be facing Newcastle, and I'll be honest, going into the semi-final ties, I wanted one of two outcomes. I either wanted a Southampton versus Nottingham Forest final or a Newcastle versus Man United final. I didn't want Man United versus Southampton or Newcastle versus Forest, because you want a tightly contested final. And I think, to be fair, if Newcastle face Forest or United face Southampton, there is a clear favourite there and a team who you would expect to dominate the game. And then again, on the odd occasion we do see a cup upset in the final. Like I remember just over a decade ago, Birmingham beating Arsenal in this competition, as well as in the FA Cup, Wigan beating Man City. There have been, a couple, but the majority of the time the favourite does usually win when it's like this. So I want to see a tight game in the final, and I think it will be very close. Two very informed teams this season in the Premier League. But yeah, anyway, United are through. Forest, I'd like to say they gave it a go tonight, but I don't think that's really the case. They only really had 2 chances throughout the game. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.